going on, everybody? This is dkdynamite, and we have quite a bit to talk about tonight, from 3 more traditional zombies maps releasing, a secret remaster you may not have noticed, and even some brand new Easter eggs. Definitely stay tuned. But before we jump into that, be sure to hit that subscribe button down below, because about 69% of you that watch my videos aren't subscribed. And sure, it's a funny number, but make sure you guys are getting notifications every time I update you on Black Ops Cold War. Our brand new episode of Bombcast is also now available on all audio platforms out there, and is always available in the public Bombcast playlist that is linked down below in the description. Yesterday we reviewed all the Season 3 events, trailers, talked about Warzone getting Dark Aether and FOV support, as well as discussed what is coming next for both Black Ops Cold War and Warzone. But the Zombies updates in Season 3 brought us a variety of different changes to Outbreak. First of all, Duga is a very beautiful region, as you guys could see in the gameplay. And by the way, the ballistic knife is a ton of fun to use in Zombies. Make sure you guys give that a shot if you haven't unlocked or if you bought the bundle like I did, because once you max pack this and upgrade it to legendary rarity, it is amazing against just about any zombie or mini boss that you come across. I'm also looking forward to seeing Duga in Fireteam later on this season. I'm sure it'll play fantastic in either Dirty Bomb, Fireteam Hardpoint, and then of course the long-awaited Fireteam Elimination Battle Royale mode, which I talked quite a bit in yesterday's podcast as well. My question for you guys is, how many regions are they going to end up adding to Outbreak in the future though? Will we eventually be able to warp to around 10 locations in a single match? Could that break the game? Could stability be thrown off a little bit by a number of regions past 6 or 7? I'm just not sure, but maybe at some point they end up releasing all of the remaining sections from Treyarch's massive Euro Mountains experience. As you can see concept arts on screen. We talked about this in a previous video about, a week and a half ago, that essentially if they do continue releasing regions from that Euro Mountains experience, then we're going to end up having, yes, close to 10 different regions in a match of Outbreak. But what they could also do is release a set of 4 to 5 more regions and put them in a separate playlist that is separate from the current list we have with Ruka, Alpine, Sanatorium, Golova, Duga. Because what's going to happen when the Easter egg drops for Outbreak? How's that going to work? Can you just do steps no matter what region you're in? So if they end up adding more maps in the future, the steps could still work. Lots of questions, but I'm sure those will get answered in a future update. Now we also have some HUD changes over in Outbreak. As you guys can see in the gameplay, we have some updates to the mini-map itself. So if you mark something anywhere around the map and you pull up your mini-map, you'll see the marker, which to me is helpful for co-op games. In case you want to mark something specific and your teammates are far away, they can see exactly where it is if they pull up their display. We also have some different HUD changes that were made. So now we have new icons for some of the heavy enemies, the anomalies, the objectives, which is a good quality of life improvement since they were a bit unclear before. I think sometimes the map gets a bit mumbled up with too many things in one location, so I like that they change things up a bit, change some colors around, and spice things up to make the gameplay a little bit easier. Now they also changed the icon for the Wonder Fizz machines, since I think before it was a bit confusing how there were 2 question marks on your map. You had to remember which one was which. One question mark is for the Wonder Fizz, another one is for the mystery box. Now they've changed that so that the only question mark on your minimap is for the mystery box, and the Wonder Fizz now is a much different looking icon, as you will see in the footage too. So a little update to the mode that I think definitely was helpful. It wasn't desperately needed, but I love how Treyarch is looking at ways to make the gameplay better, looking at community feedback and making sure that Outbreak is as replayable as possible. Now in terms of new side quests that were added in, I think it's great that even though the main Easter egg isn't live in game right now, they're still adding in little side Easter eggs to keep things spicy. So first off, we have Fury Crystals. They look similar to the Dark Aether crystals that are purple, except these Fury Crystals will be orange. Essentially what happens is they'll work exactly like some of the other side quests already in Outbreak, such as the Dragon, the Radio, or Dark Aether Chest. So these Fury Crystals won't always spawn in every single region that you're in, but take a look at your minimap every time you spawn into a new location and see if that Fury Crystal icon is on your map. If it is, you want to go up to it, and before shooting it, keep in mind exactly what building that you're in, since once you shoot this first crystal, it'll kind of set off a bit of a timer, and you have a limited amount of time to then shoot 6 other Fury Crystals after this first one, so 7 total. If you manage to shoot all 7 of these Fury Crystals, it'll then give you a free Aether tool, and these Aether tools are introduced first in the Onslaught Zombies mode, which essentially upgrade your weapon rarity to 1 level higher. So this could be a bit tricky, and I would really recommend clearing out the building that you're in first. Now sometimes you get Fury Crystals that spawn outside, as you can see in this first example. I'll show a separate example later in this video where I find one inside of a building, and in that case you have to go from room to room looking for the remaining Fury Crystals. But in this first example here, I was able to see the glowing crystals from a bit of a distance since I'm outside, so you can see the glow from through walls, by windows, and other areas, as you can see in these corners. So they're not too hard to find, but like I said, get used to the area that you're in before shooting the first crystal, which then sets off a timer. It just takes some practice. I mean, there's no harm in failing this. It won't spawn in an infinite amount of zombies if you don't complete this, but if you do not complete the Fury Crystals on time, and let's say you miss one or two, you'll actually get the game over music, which is funny. Kind of a bit of a scare. Your game isn't over, but it does play that music since you did fail. But yeah, I think it's a great way to save some salvage, upgrade your weapon rarity without spending your salvage. You can save your salvage for other things, right? Whether it's armor, whether it's for equipment. I think it's a cool little side quest overall that you could find in almost every single region, but it's all based on RNG if you do spawn in with one every time you warp. But we next up have these phase wall tears, essentially these little portals on the edges of all of the regions. So once you walk through one of them, it'll disappear and you have to wait until it appears in a different part of the map. But essentially what happens is you'll walk up to one of these phase tears on the edges of a region, and it'll actually teleport you pretty high into the air, allowing you to get to a different part of the map if you need to get somewhere pretty quickly. I think this is really useful for one of those trials where it requires you to stay in the air as long as possible, since I feel like these phase wall tears put you a lot higher in the air than the jump pads do. So definitely take advantage of these if you're in a rush, a bit impatient, or if you have to get somewhere as quick as possible. But I think Treyarch, of all development teams, do know that whenever you have a big map experience, especially in zombies, fast travels are a must. I think D.I.E is a map that definitely could have needed some fast travels, if you guys know what I mean. But, you know, unless you have a vehicle system, which Outbreak does have, then I think running across about, you know, a couple of miles of map definitely isn't too appealing to a casual base of the community. But, you know, we have vehicles on Outbreak as it is. That's great. But having the fast travels definitely speeds things up quite a bit, especially in those games where you're going in to do something very specific, but you don't feel like running across, you know, the big map of Alpine or Golova. It's a great feature overall. But next up, we have a surprising free Raygun Easter egg. So yes, for the first time in Black Ops Cold War Zombies, we actually have a free Raygun quest. So this is a bit frustrating, and I'm gonna put a clip on screen from a different content creator. I'll have them linked and credited down below in the description. I wasn't able to pull this off in my game of Outbreak today. I played for a good 2.5 hours, but essentially, in any of the regions at any given time, you could find a punk-looking zombies with the name Ronald Raygun. So yes, Treyarch knows the meme. They've appreciated it quite well, and they've actually incorporated it here into Outbreak. So once you kill this Ronald Raygun punk-looking zombie, he'll drop a Raygun guaranteed every single time. The tricky part is having to find this Ronald Raygun looking zombie model. So what I would recommend the most is going through every single side objective that is available to you in your match of Outbreak. And what that does is thins the horde out quite a bit. And once you've done that, just take a car and drive around different areas of whatever region you're in and look for small crowds of zombies. There's always going to be one or two, and this zombie Ronald Raygun model could be in a crowd of 3 zombies, could be in a crowd of 15 zombies. You never know where he's going to be, but maybe it would have been better if he was wearing a suit to kind of fit that presidential status. Now, all we're waiting for is a Ronald Raygun operator, which hopefully could drop at some point in Black Ops Cold War and Warzone. That would sell like hotcakes, just as much as Samantha did, I can guarantee you that. But I just think it's great how in every single Black Ops iteration, Treyarch always acknowledges the different memes going around in the community. They try to incorporate them in their maps somehow. The same energy as this Ronald Raygun Easter egg is the last gen Richtofen jump scare from Classified in Black Ops 4. I love when Treyarch does things like that. But now when it comes to an update regarding the D.I.E Shockwave. So luckily with Season 3, they finally added in the 4 elemental variants of the D.I.E Shockwave that were in the Machina. And no, you don't have to do a quest by any means to unlock any of these. The chests that contain the different elemental canisters are just sitting around 4 different regions of Outbreak, and they're on Ruka, Alpine, Golova, and Duga. There isn't one on Sanatorium, unfortunately. So first you want to make sure that you have the D.I.E Shockwave base version. You have to have this before grabbing any of the canisters that are laying around Outbreak. So the way to get the D.I.E Shockwave is either through trials or just by killing some heavy enemies that could randomly drop it at some point. So it took me a good 5 to 6 different trial completions, and again, in all those trials I managed to reach legendary status. You have to reach legendary to have a good chance of getting the D.I.E Shockwave. You eventually get it. It's not too rare. You know, you could get the Raygun or the Ray K by mistake, but just keep trying for the D.I.E Shockwave. It isn't too hard, but definitely make sure you're doing all of the radio side objectives that may spawn into your regions. It'll spawn in a Panzer, a Mangler, and some of those heavy enemies have a good chance at dropping the D.I.E Shockwave as well. But once you have the D.I.E Shockwave, the first upgrade is the Nova 6 one located here in Golova, and it's here by the tracks. Just come up here at the very top of this tower, and you'll see the chest just sitting there. Hold square on it, and you can grab the Nova 6 upgrade. The Nova isn't great. I mean, there are strategies in the Machina where people have gone to high rounds using this, but in Outbreak, it's not very good. I mean, it's decent decent. I mean, you can make any of these upgrades decent with Ring of Fire, but you guys see what I mean as you can see in the footage. Definitely wouldn't recommend using this one too much. I then went over into Duga next, where you can find the electric upgrade sitting at the very top of the array. It's actually the first one that I think everyone in the community actually noticed when Duga first released, and you have to just make sure that you come all the way up to the array and just run across this railing here until you find the green box sitting here on the ground. It is worth pointing out that the chests will always be in the same locations in every single region. Hopefully that makes sense. Obviously the electric upgrade is the best one of all, as it was in the Machina, and that translates very well over into Outbreak as well. I mean, so no surprise. So this is the one you want to have, in case you guys were wondering. Now next up we have the fire upgrade located on Ruka in the Burned Forest. So it's a bit ironic, but I guess it makes sense why it's here, right? And this one is a bit hit or miss. I have marked exactly where these chests are located on my minimap so you can see in the footage, but this one isn't great. I mean, once you have Ring of Fire or insta-kill and you absorb the enemy's souls, I mean, sure, you get your ammo back pretty quickly, or you can buy ammo with it, but when you actually shoot this one, I mean, it's okay against maybe a Megaton Twin or just a standard zombie. Once you start getting to some of the higher waves where you have armored zombies and even some panzers, this one isn't going to do much. But if you use Ring of Fire, then hey, you can find some use in any of these die upgrades, as I said earlier. But last and definitely not least, we have the ice upgrade located in, as you expected, Alpine. So this was going to be sitting on an ice rink here towards the edge of the map. You can just grab this one and it's okay. I mean, this is probably maybe the second best. You guys correct me in the comments if you disagree with that, totally okay, but this one's alright. I mean, it could get you killed in some tough corridors, especially when you're doing a Dark Aether holdout over an Alpine. It's not amazing, but yeah, I just went through all 4 of the die upgrades just to get footage of all of them for you guys, but I would always go ahead and rock the electric upgrade if I managed to get a die in my match of Outbreak. But again, it's also worth pointing out that when you replace a canister with another one, you cannot get the one that you just had back until you return to the region where you originally got that from. So for example, if I have the electric upgrade from Duga and I go over to Alpine and grab the ice upgrade, I can't get the electric upgrade back until I return to Duga, which may take a little while. So again, make a smart decision and choose wisely, right? Choose which canister you want wisely, because it'll take you a while to get back to where you came from to get that upgrade back if you want it. So just a quick FYI for these die upgrades. Now I'm also curious, do you guys think a wonder weapon will be added to Sanatorium in the future? Since right now we have 4 upgrade canisters for the die and they're located in 4 of the 5 Outbreak regions, but what happens when they add in, let's say, 3 to 4 more regions in Outbreak? Will they end up adding different wonder weapons on those sections? Totally a possibility. Maybe a classic Thunder Gun, Wonder Off, or even the Mark II. That would be a great fit here in Black Ops Cold War, at least in my opinion. But now when it comes to a secret remaster that nobody's really talking about on YouTube or Reddit, I think I saw a small Reddit post that didn't get much traction talking about this, but I first noticed this in my stream the other day when Season 3 first released in Black Ops Cold War. If you head over to Duga in Outbreak, you'll actually find a classic multiplayer map from Black Ops 1, which has never been remastered a single time, just sitting here in Duga, and that is the map known as Grid. Now I think it's ironic since in the original map Grid, which I'll show footage of in this video as well, there was an array in the distance, and yeah, we have an array here in the distance of Duga, and I think it's also funny how in Verdansk 84, we have a similar location to Duga, which also features a different array. So I think in real life there were around 2 to 3 arrays like this during the Cold War, so it makes sense how we have more than one. We have one in Grid, we have one in Verdansk 84, and now here in Duga, they've essentially recreated Grid a little bit. It's the exact same layout as you remember from Black Ops 1, and as a reminder, Grid has never been remastered a single time in any other Black Ops game. It was featured in the classic Black Ops Declassified experience on the PS Vita, but that is about it. But we also have the bunkers that were located in Grid, also found here in Duga, that I'm going to run through as you can see in the gameplay. It's exactly laid out the exact same as you remember from 2010, which is incredible. So Treyarch has not forgot about some of these classic locations that haven't been remastered a single time. They're just going to find ways to remaster them in different ways, apart from 6v6 or apart from something else. They could throw them into zombies, right? And I have no issue with that at all. That's why I said before, I'm like, look, instead of remastering the same zombies maps we've had time and time again, take some multiplayer maps, recreate those, or take sections of multiplayer maps and, you know, give us a zombie playable location outside of that area, right? I mean, take Der Schatten, for example, in Black Ops 4. The town below Der Eisendrache was a multiplayer experience. How about do that in reverse? Take a multiplayer experience and have an area that expands on that in zombies, right? I mean, it works both ways, and I'm glad to see that here in Duga. Just a nice surprise that I don't think many people actually noticed, but if you guys did, it just tells you are a true Black Ops fan, according to Treyarch. But next up, the reason you probably clicked on this video to begin with is because there actually is a bit of confirmation in game. We are going to get at least 3 more traditional zombies maps, not including any content for Onslaught or Outbreak, and the hint actually comes from, what do you know, the Wonder Fizz machine. So before before you guys say, oh, I already knew that, hear me out on this one. So it is very clear that we're going to be getting a new perk every time a new Zombies map releases, and once Tombstone released, so did Firebase Z. So if there are 3 more empty slots in the Wonder Fizz machine, I guess that confirms to the community that we're going to be seeing at least 3 more traditional maps. Could the Wonder Fizz mean nothing? Could this just be a placeholder? Could they change the design of the Wonder Fizz so that there aren't 3 more perks added, maybe just 1 or 2? Sure, that's possible, but let's take a look at what Treyarch's working on right now. So as Craig Houston confirmed in the recent Treyarch broadcast, they're polishing up the Outbreak Easter egg, but he said, and I quote, the next traditional map should be launching probably in the next season. He said probably. As I said before, they could pull a Firebase Z and have the map done early, therefore they could release the map in Season 3 at some point. So if the Outbreak Easter egg does release before the mid-season update, which it definitely could, what if it drops in the next 2-3 weeks and the Season 3 Reloaded could bring us Berlin? If that's the case, then there is still time to release 2 other maps after that. I think it's not unlikely to see at least 3 more traditional maps, because what that would do is bring us to a total of 5 traditional Zombies maps in Black Ops Cold War Zombies. That's exactly what previous Black Ops iterations have offered in the past, and I highly doubt that they're going to change that now. I know there's no season pass, there's no contractual obligation to bring us, you know, a couple more maps. I understand that, but the fact that Zombies is apparently at a peak right now, according to business, according to Activision, according to the numbers and the player base, I don't see why they would cut the plug on traditional maps right now, and I would say there is still enough time to release at least 3 more maps for the very ending of Season 6, which is presumably the finale of Black Ops Cold War. And considering the potential 133-day gap from Firebase Z, February 4th, to what could be June 16th, Berlin, that's quite a while. 133 days is the biggest gap we've ever seen from one zombie map to another, so a traditional map is long overdue by now, which is why I do believe there is a reason to think that a map could still drop at some point later in Season 3. With that being said, once the Outbreak Easter egg does release here in the mode, I think from that point forward, I'm going to be wondering what else could they add to Outbreak after that point? What else could they work on aside from different regions, different objectives? I don't think we'll see another main quest added to Outbreak after this new one that's about to release, so if that's the case, they'll have more time to dedicate to traditional Zombies maps. That could actually work out perfectly. So if the Outbreak egg drops this season in the next 2-3 weeks, and they also drop Berlin towards the end of the season, then after that, they'll have plenty of time to at least polish up 2 more maps from that point forward. And what do you know, there are 3 more perk slots located on the Wonder Fizz machine. As of right now, we know the 3 perks could be, as rumored before, PhD Flopper, Double Tap, and Mule Kick. And that doesn't mean they can't add other perks after that. Maybe they will, but I think through some of the tier upgrades of the upcoming 3 perks, they can incorporate some other abilities that we saw in previous Black Ops iterations, such as Black Ops 4, that contained a variety of different perks, which have come back in a slight way in Black Ops Cold War. For example, we have Time Slip as a tier upgrade for Speed Cola. We have, what else is it? My brain's farting here. We have Electric Cherry as a tier upgrade for Elemental Pop, so on and so forth. So that makes sense. There are 3 perk slots left. You know about 3 upcoming perks that are dropping, and if 1 perk is dropping with every new traditional Zombies map, then do the math, right? It makes sense. And also to build on that, I think it's fair to be a bit optimistic about the future of the zombie season, since if Berlin doesn't drop until Season 4, you guys are probably wondering, well, how will they have time to drop 2 more maps after that before Season 6 is over? I mean, what would the gap look like? I mean, what if them delaying both the Outbreak Egg and Berlin allows them to get ahead of schedule so that we start seeing a lot of Zombies content dropping back to back to back? So if Berlin drops Season 4, then obviously the next 2 maps after that will have to drop in Season 5 and 6 respectively. That makes sense, but if Berlin drops this season, which I think it may, then we could start seeing another Zombies map every, month and a half going forward for the end of this game's life cycle. Lots of possibilities with that, but Black Ops 4's in-game store definitely showed room for 1 more map pack. I understand that, but one never came. Now, you could argue that that's just the way the UI was laid out in Black Ops 4. I could definitely agree to an extent, but we all know more was planned for Black Ops 4 at the end of the day. So I think, the Wonder Fizz could be teasing this. Maybe they change the design of the UI of the Wonder Fizz later so that we don't get more perks after the one that drops with Berlin. But then here comes the final point I wanted to make in this video tonight, and that is regarding a year 2 of Black Ops Cold War, which definitely impacts zombies. So we touched on this a bit in the past. We theorized on how a year 2 could work for Black Ops Cold War if COD 2021 doesn't have a zombies experience. What if I told you that an insider earlier today mentioned that World War II Vanguard isn't looking good, and it's looking like they may actually update both Modern Warfare 2019 and Black Ops Cold War over the next next year. So as the Modern Warfare 2 ghost said over on Twitter, and he's pretty reliable when it comes to leaks, he works with Modern Warzone, he said, got the green light to share this, there is still no certain release date for Vanguard. This is the latest that a firm decision hasn't been made about the release, and it is possible that we won't see Vanguard this year. So this could be the first time Activision breaks the Call of Duty cycle. For me, it would be for the better. I definitely think I'm happy with Black Ops Cold War as it is. Warzone's doing fine. If you like Modern Warfare, that's your cup of tea, then you'll play that if COD 2021 doesn't release. But especially with the pandemic and rough circumstances, all these development changes, and Sledgehammer being a new studio and all, I didn't need the extra time to make a full-fledged Call of Duty. Let's not have a rushed release this upcoming year, especially with how hot Black Ops Cold War, Warzone, and Modern Warfare are currently doing. That's not all. Modern Warfare 2 then said there are talks of some kind of revamp for Modern Warfare 2019, or a flow of more content for it. There's so much unreleased and potentially saved for Modern Warfare 2, and of course, Cold War at the front and center. Lastly, there's nothing about Vanguard that would make it a good release this year, and that's a quote. So, other insiders like Tom Henderson have mentioned the exact same thing in the past, but like I said before in the podcast, just about every single year that Call of Duty is about to come out, we hear the same rumor. Oh, Call of Duty's not looking good, it's not going to be a finished product, it's going to be rushed, it'll be buggy. And Black Ops 4 was really the only game where we were able to say that because of all the blue screens at release, but for the most part, every COD has released in fairly solid shape. If not too solid, then it gets a good revamp around Christmas or New Year's. So this could be the first time where Activision's like, you know what, we have to fold. This is just not going to work. Let's just not rush this game and essentially embarrass Sledgehammer, especially after removing them from COD 2020 to begin with. So they may just push this next COD back, update the 3 current Call of Duties, which includes Warzone, and then, we'll see what happens after that. Maybe COD 2022 will see us with World War II, COD 2023 would be Modern Warfare 2, and then Black Ops, 6 or 7 could drop in 2024. That's quite a while away, so as rough as that does sound, I wouldn't mind seeing another year of content to the 3 titles I listed. And it's also worth noting that if that happens, then could that bump up the traditional zombies maps in Black Ops Cold War to more than 5 or 6? Sure. I mean, Treyarch will probably get to work on their next game after Season 6 is over of Black Ops Cold War, but doesn't mean they can't drop a supposed Zombies Chronicles 2 in the next year. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if the only zombies updates we get to Black Ops Cold War after this cycle is over is maybe regions to Outbreak, maybe some other modes to Onslaught, some other LTMs, and maybe some remasters. But quote-unquote new maps, I wouldn't expect those. But hey, if Activision pours in the money and says, you know what, Treyarch, you have to really update this game as much as possible, then yeah, we could see the most amount of zombies maps ever in Black Ops history. But that is about it. This has been dkdynamite. Leave all your thoughts down below in the comment section. What are your thoughts on the new updates that were added to Outbreak, the new side Easter eggs, the secret remaster that Treyarch added into Duga, and what are your thoughts about seeing at least 3 more traditional zombies maps by the end of the cycle? But hey, if year 2 happens, we can see much more than that. Really hope you've enjoyed. That is about it, and peace out, everyone.